Hey guys, thanks for the click and welcome back. Let's go ahead and get this project started. The first thing I did was create my SVG design, and since this job will be using both scoring and engraving, I decided to use multiple colors in my SVG job to differentiate between each process. The solid fill colors will be used for engraving, and the different colored lines will be used for different score jobs. Doing this is what's going to make this job super easy. When I load it into the Glowforge, it will show different processes for each color. I then reflect my image and delete the original. When done, I save the file as an SVG file and I load it into the Glowforge. Before loading the file into the Glowforge, I fastened down a 90-degree L jig that I cut out of MDF to the crumb tray using 100-pound neodymium magnets. The purpose of this jig is to retain the alignment of your SVG to your material. I next load a piece of 1/8" clear acrylic that I know will fit my artwork, and I place it onto the crumb tray and gently push it into the jig, making sure both sides of the material are flush against both of the legs. I close the lid and I go to my computer to load the SVG file into the Glowforge app. Once loaded, I position the artwork onto the center of the material. Once I have it exactly where I want it, I can never move it from that position. If your artwork moves, it will throw off the alignment and your project will be destroyed. Now, if you look on the left side, you will see the different processes that were created because different colors were used in the file design. I will now prepare different areas for the gold paint application. So I'm going to want to score the word champion and the border that surrounds it. So looking at the processes to the left, I want to ignore all the other processes except for the word champion and the border around champion. I now set the last two processes to score, and I enter in the power and speed settings for each. When done, I hit the print button to get this job started. This scoring step will provide just enough power from the laser to cut just the top of the paper masking. This will make removing the masking very easy from certain areas. I remove the piece from the Glowforge and I return it to my workbench for inspection. Once inspected, I will use fine point tweezers to remove all the pieces from the areas that I will spray gold spray paint. I now take the piece to the garage to apply a few light coats of gold spray paint. I apply about 3 to 4 light coats of spray paint, allowing each to dry before each coat. I then take it back to the craft room. So after drying, the paint looks really good, so I'm now ready to prepare the piece for the application of the second color. So I load it into the Glowforge. I place the material on the crumb tray and I gently push it into the jig, making sure that it is flush against both of the legs of the L jig. I go to the already running Glowforge app. Never close your app until you are done with the project. If you close the app, you will not be able to perfectly align your artwork. You will notice that the artwork is still aligned with the material. I will now grab 2 of the processes that will both receive white paint, and I will drag them down to join the previous 2. I will change them both from ignore to score and enter in the score settings for each of them. So now that I have that done, let's go ahead and hit the print button to get this job started. As you noticed, I am once again running the first 2 score jobs. Since the paint was applied, there is now paint in between the masking. Rescoring will burn away any paint that is in between the masking. And when you pull off the masking, it will easily peel off. If you skip this step, there is a great likelihood that the paint will pull and tear and ruin your project. So now I will inspect the piece and identify all the areas that need to be peeled off. It is in these areas that will receive the white paint. So let's take the material to the garage and apply a few light coats of white spray paint, allowing each coat to dry before applying the next one. Once again, I load it back into the Glowforge. I return to the already running Glowforge app and I change all the current score jobs to ignore. I will now select my first engraved job. This will be the areas that will receive the third color red. I change the process from ignore to engrave. You can see how the letters are now displayed in blue. I now enter in my engraved settings for this run. I hit the print button to start the engraved job. This engraved job is burning through 3 layers: the masking, the gold spray paint, and the white spray paint. If you don't get down to the acrylic, just rerun this engraved job. I now apply a few light coats of red spray paint, allowing each coat to dry about 3 minutes after each coat. I return the material to my workbench for inspection and to identify the areas that will receive the next color blue. And back into the Glowforge it goes. I return to the already running Glowforge app and I change the last job from engraved back to ignore. I then select my second engraved job and I change it from ignore to engrave, and I set the engraved settings that are best for my Glowforge. Your settings may be different than mine. I now go back to a couple of previous score jobs and I re-enable them to the score process. I enter in the score settings for both. I now hit the print button to get this job started. These next 2 areas are being prepared for the next color blue. This engraved job is now burning away 4 layers, the masking and the gold, white, and red spray paint, and it's looking pretty clean. This next score job is being done to burn away the paint that is in between the masking. You don't want your paint to peel and tear, so make sure to do this step. So let me take the material to the workbench and prep it for the next layer of blue spray paint. The next thing I have to do is remove the masking around the letter A and then take it to the garage for paint. So let me go ahead and remove that piece. And because I scored it first, it peels off very easily. I apply very light coats, allowing it to dry thoroughly before applying the next coat. I once again return the material back to the Glowforge and I return to the already running Glowforge app. I next set the previous 3 processes back to ignore. We won't be using them for this next step. I now click on the scoreboard to change it from ignore to score, and I set the score settings that are perfect for my Glowforge. Next, I click on the print button to go ahead and get this job started. Now this score job is very important because there are multiple layers of spray paint between the masking, so scoring it will definitely burn off the paint and allow the piece to be peeled off easily. So prevent yourself from screwing up the project and always score the areas that are next to get peeled off. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. I now remove the material and I take it to the workbench to peel off the next area for paint. And this piece was so satisfying to peel off because it was scored perfectly. It's now time to spray on the 5th colored green. And just like before, I spray on light coats, allowing each coat to dry before spraying on the next coat. I now take the material and place it back into the Glowforge for the last engraved job. I now return to the already running Glowforge app and I change the previous scoreboard job from score back to ignore. I then find the box score job and I move it to the bottom, and I ensure that all the other processes are set to ignore. I then change the box score information from ignore to engrave. You'll see the colors change to blue. Now I set the engraved settings that are perfect for my machine, and now I hit the print button and I get ready to engrave the box score onto the material. I'm quickly approaching the 9th inning, so let me spray on some white paint and make those white numbers pop. Okay, let me take this dried piece and load it back into the Glowforge. I return to the already running Glowforge app and I change the last job from Engraved to Ignore. I next find the next two processes that I need and I change them both from Ignore back to Score. I drag them both to the bottom and I set the score settings for each of them. Next, I click on the print button to get this job started. I will be scoring the border of the scoreboard and the main border of the text design. This will allow me to peel off the background of the sign. I will now peel off the background. This will expose a large area of the acrylic that I will spray blue. So let's take it to the garage and make that happen. After drying, let me spray on the final black color. Applying the black will lock in all the colors and make them more brilliant from the front side. Believe it or not, it's now time for the final visit to the Glowforge. I return to the already running Glowforge app and I change the settings on my last score job from Score to Ignore. Then I find my cut job and I move it down to the bottom. I make sure that all the other processes are set to Ignore. I then set the cut settings for this last job. I then click on the print button to cut this sign out. We're almost done. Alright guys, let's remove this piece and take it to the workbench for inspection to see if all this work was worth it. Alright guys, I hope that I have shown you how using colors in your SVG design really does make this process easier. I'm scoring this project a home run. So this wraps up another video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. So if it happens in my world, I'll likely make a video of it. Until my next project, have a great day and God bless.